The present is already catastrophic. The present is already scary. If we fail to address loss and damage, the future will be much worse. This is loss and damage. It's what happens when climate change intensified disasters like hurricanes, wildfires and floods, and slow-moving catastrophes like droughts and sea level rise lead to a loss of life, culture, biodiversity, territory, and livelihoods, as well as damage to homes, hospitals, schools and roads, which often forces people to flee their homes.
Loss and damage as of this year, 2021, is taking place in every single country in the world, including the rich countries. But the biggest impacts are on poorest people living in the poorest countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America.
If your island is going underwater, you have to leave. If your farmland is turning into desert, you have to move. And if forest fires are destroying your home, what choice do you have?
Last year, around mid-May, we saw heavy rainfall causing 4 rivers to burst their banks in the western part of the country, causing massive destruction and leaving over 100,000 people displaced.
In the global negotiations on climate change, in the Paris Agreement agreed in 2015, there's an Article 8, that says we need to deal with loss and damage. But unfortunately, there hasn't been a single penny paid for loss and damage yet.
And this is a problem, because areas prone to loss and damage are no longer insurable.
Insurance is something that works on probability. When you know that you are definitely going to face climate impacts, insurance doesn't work.
Therefore, money for people to put their lives back together needs to come from somewhere else.
Those who are at the front lines are the least responsible for the climate crisis. I do believe in the polluter pays principle. Fossil fuel companies and the biggest polluting countries, they have the responsibility to provide compensation for loss and damage.
The major fossil fuel companies around the world have known for decades that they were producing a polluting product, and they have suppressed that information and they prevented action. As a result, they've made billions of dollars of profit. Therefore, they are completely liable to be challenged now to pay up for the loss and damage that they have knowingly caused and they have profited from.
Although there is clearly a pressing need to support communities impacted by loss and damage, finance has been blocked, denied, and deemed too expensive by those who have polluted.
The Global North hasn't done anything about loss and damage because it has refused to accept responsibility for the climate crisis. They don't want to pay the bill.
With similar compensation funds already in existence, it is high time to set one up for loss and damage.
We do have an example of compensation for pollution. The major oil companies quite willingly put money into a pot, and if there's an oil spill anywhere, the people who are affected don't have to prove which company caused it. That's the kind of thing that we need for loss and damage from climate change.
The present is already catastrophic. The present is already scary. And if compensation is not given, the future is going to be much worse.
With COP26 rapidly approaching, it's time to put loss and damage firmly on the agenda.
COP26 coming up later this year is a critical event where the issue of loss and damage has to be front and center. Otherwise, the developing countries, particularly the most vulnerable countries, will deem the COP a failure.
The COP will be successful only if a compensation fund is put in place for communities that are facing the impacts of the climate crisis right now.
We have been waiting and waiting for the last 30 years, and we cannot wait any longer.
If we do not address loss and damage, then there is no climate justice.
It's not just what loss and damage is, but what it means. It speaks of the existential threat that the heating of our fragile band of atmosphere represents. It's the signpost of what's to come. The alarm bell that tells us we are running out of road for ignoring it as if it isn't there. We are running out of road for doing nothing proportionate to the scale of the problem. We are running out of road. Taking care of those at the sharp end of this climate change that is happening now, not tomorrow, but now, is urgent and long overdue.